hope that I keep from coughing during this. Okay. Okay, everyone, let's start. Jai Ma, and welcome to Matri Satsang of Sri Anandamayi Ma, whose paduka we're here. We're in the presence of her paduka that she wore on her feet. And you're all very welcome here. I think we have some new people here and many old friends. We are, the first thing I have to always give the disclaimer, we are recording this and we put the recordings on our YouTube channel, Anandamayi Ma Satsang West. So the devotees can later on come and enjoy the readings we do and the talks we have. So if you will be recorded if you talk, but I hope that doesn't discourage anybody. It's just seen by devotees who love Ma. And so later when we have our sharing period, I hope people will feel free to participate. And this month, we're going to have a little different schedule. Okay, but first, let's go ahead and introduce everyone. As I always say, those of you here for the first time get to hear it the first time. One of my reasons for starting this was a deep passion that I was feeling from my travels. I was sent by the ashram all over the world to do kirtan and teach classes. And people who would frequently come up to me and say, Ma has touched my heart. This photo came alive. This happened, that happened. And they have no place to go. They have no place to further learn of Ma and study Ma's teachings and have community, especially. So that has been my view of starting this satsang, and through Zoom, it's happened so wonderfully. Now people all over the world join, people who come every month. So hopefully this isn't just a one-time session. I mean, it is how you take it however you want, but what we're offering is this is our community of Anandamayi Ma, people who have been touched by Ma, who want to know more about Ma, who we can talk about her together and study her words and her life together. And so that's the idea. So with that in mind, I always like to have everyone introduce themselves. And this takes a few minutes, and if we do it as quickly as possible. So at this point, later on, we'll have an open microphone sharing. But at this point, if people could just say their name and where they're from. I think the first two of us need to give a little fuller introduction for those who don't know us, to figure out, so you can understand kind of why we're doing this. My name is Mangalananda, and I received Diksha from Ma in 1973. And since that time, I have been living within her sampradaya, her lineage, with some of her greatest disciples. And I lived 12 years in one of her ashrams in India, and I'm an appointed acharya. That's like a lineage teacher of Ma Sharanam ashram in central India. And this is my beautiful and adorable wife, Gloria, also called Jyoti, who's very quiet. So you need to say something later on. And I want to introduce my co-host, who is Pragya Hallstrom, who's the author of that wonderful book about Ma, Mother of Bliss, with the second book at the publisher. And Pragya, can you say hello?
Jai Ma, Jai Ma. We're echoing here.
Good.
Hold on a second.
Close the doors between you or something. Yeah, if you can close the doors so you're getting no acoustic sound between you.
What? You have to unmute. I'm unmuted.
Now it's easy. Now you're muted, Pragya. We don't hear you.
Okay, now say it.
We're trying something new here. You're muted, Pragya, so I'm going to ask you to unmute. We're trying something new. Pragya's at Dr. Murad's house with a whole bunch of people, and she's in a separate room, but their computers are...
Our computers are competing. So, Jai Ma, we'll figure this out by the time I do a reading a little bit later.
That's better. It stopped now. It's good.
Is that better now?
Yeah.
No, so then I have to turn it off.
It is. It's better now. Go ahead, Pragya.
Okay. So I'm just happy to see you all. And we're having satsang here in Hopkinton, Massachusetts. And as you can see, wave everybody. I'm in the same room with this beautiful group of people, some of whom are new to Ma, and some of whom have been with us before. So just so blessed. We've had a beautiful lunch. We told stories of Ma. We did some kirtan, and now we're here with you. So Jai Ma.
Wonderful. Jai Ma, Jai Ma. So Renu, our
Yes.
technical co-host Renu, if you could, and I'll mute, we're still getting noise.
Have to, what's the speaker here?
Anandamayi, the problem is, since Pranya's in the same room with two different Zoom connections and so there's a group and then just her, so that causes the reverb or the.
I was hoping they'd be in two different rooms. Anyway, go ahead. Okay, but go ahead and mute now so we can continue, okay? Everybody mute. Very good. Okay, so Renu, if you would introduce yourself. Renu is our technical co-host and Matri Satsang faithful. And if you would introduce everyone by name. And now a suggestion that was made is a quick way to unmute yourself if you're with it on a computer is just to press your space bar. If you press the space bar, it unmutes you and you can keep it down as long as you talk and let it go, it unmutes you again. So as Renu calls your name, if people can just say their name and where they're from, we can see everybody's face who's here, okay? Renu?
Okay, Jai Ma, welcome everyone. I'm Renu from Northern California in the Bay Area, and it's good to see you all. I'm going to start with, just go down the participant list, and we'll start with Dr. Murad.
We are unmuted.
Very good. Go ahead.
Jai Ma, sorry, we are running around doing all kinds of crazy things. Murad's from Boston, but let me bring the camera so everyone can see everyone properly. Can you hear us?
Yes, yes. Great,
nice
beautiful group. I wish we were there in person.
Yeah.
My first exposure to this group. Thank you for having us. Thank you.
Jai Ma, welcome.
This is Lamai Prabhu's wife. We are neighbor of Murad and Nitaben.
Namaste.
Swagat hai.
Aliyah, Jema,
Jai Ma.
Murad's daughter.
Ah, you're always off screen for us. That's nice. We see you for the first time.
Hi, I'm Natalie, friend of Prajna and Ted.
Jai Ma.
Hi, I'm Ted.
Hey, Ted.
This is Nita, Murad's wife. We are always there for every satsang, but you guys don't see us.
Well, we're very happy to see you. Yes, you're both very much worth seeing.
Finally.
Yeah.
Is that everybody from the in-person satsang group?
Aapka sabka swagat hai. Suswagatam.
Okay, now, okay, never mind.
Okay, let's keep moving.
Okay, thank you. Welcome, Jai Ma, to all. And next we have Ayendrayu. Sorry if it's mispronounced. Ayendrayu.
Yeah, it's just Andrew. It's just the Irish way of spelling it. That's all. Just to show off a bit, you know. Yeah, my name's Andrew, and I'm joining you from France.
How very nice. Very
Sounds
nice.
like the European contest, but anyway, yeah, France.
I'm very welcome. Good to have you here.
Okay, Jai Ma,
Thank you.
welcome, Andrew. Next we have Anu.
Anu Didi, are you there? Hello, Anu. Press the space bar to unmute yourself. Okay, well, I know Anu. I just hope she's here.
Okay, next we have Arpita G and Robert from Florida, possibly. Oh, she's saying she doesn't think her microphone is working at this time, so we're just gonna.
Okay. Well, Arpita and Robert, good to see you. Arpita also received Diksha from Ma back in the 70s. I've known her for a long time. Always good to see you both.
Okay, next we have Carla. Jai Ma, welcome. Carla Mateo.
Hi, everybody. Hello, great to be here. And I'm coming from Rockport, Massachusetts, north of Boston.
Very good. Welcome, and Jai Ma, Carla. Good to see you.
Jai Ma.
Jai Ma, next we have Christian Fernandez.
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Ah, yes. Hi, Arpita. Yes. we heard-
Okay, I'm the genius that I am. It's fixed, but you know who I am. Okay, bye.
Okay, we'll get him.
I'm so proud of myself.
Okay, we were seeing Christiana. Christiana.
Hello, you hear me?
Yes, yes.
I am Christian. My spiritual name is Anandamayi. I live in Spain, in Mallorca, Spain.
You're a little
Jaima, thank
island.
you.
You're a little island off the coast, right?
Yes, between Spain and Italy.
Welcome, Ananda Sroop. It's always good to see you. Jai Ma. Glad you
Thank
could.
you. No, namaste, Jaima. Thank you.
Namaste, welcome. Next we have Katya.
Jaima, this is Katya from Portugal.
Jai
Another
Ma,
island.
Katya.
Another
Always
island.
happy to see you.
Yes,
She also
from
lived-
Madeira.
She also lived in a little beautiful island off the coast of Portugal. I saw it on the
Yes,
video.
yes. A Portuguese island, Madeira, called Madeira. Very nice.
Good to
Very happy to be here. Very happy.
It's good to see you, Katya. It's really good to see you.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Yes, thank you. Jaima. Jaima.
Jai Ma, welcome. Next we have David Castleman.
Who's on a little island north of San Francisco.
Is it?
No, the island of Santa Rosa. Are you there, David? Okay, we know David. Hi, David.
Next we have another David, David Herring.
Yeah, he'll be back in a minute. This is Linda and David. We live in Williamsburg, Virginia. And I wanted to tell you all that several times this week, when I woke up and was feeling maybe, what do I want to say, as old as I am, I said, Jaima, and I felt her comfort.
Oh,
Wonderful.
I felt her comfort immediately twice this week. And we were in Cancun at the International Center there with Ma, people, with Ma's people, in 2019. Jai Ma again.
Hey, Ma, welcome, welcome. If you still hear me, Rainin?
Yes.
My screen is going really weird. I've got this little blue circle going, so keep going. But if I flip out, just keep going with the plug-in. I'll try to sign back in. But keep going.
Okay, I'll let you back in, I promise.
Okay, thanks. I'll pay you double.
Okay, welcome to Linda and David. And next we have Debasish Guptu.
Hi, Jaima. I'm from Chicago. Good to see everyone.
Welcome.
Jaima,
Welcome.
I have a very bad throat infection, so I'll just be mostly on mute.
Okay, hope you feel better. Next we have Frank and Denise from Oregon.
Jai Ma, this is Frank. I'm at work right now in Umatilla, Oregon. Jai Ma. I'm glad to be back. I missed you guys.
Definitely good to see you. We're missing Denise. Send her our love. Next we have Ilona.
Jai Ma, everybody. This is Ilona from New Hampshire.
Welcome. Jaima. Next we have, we did lose Maglanandaji, I think, but he'll come back, promise. Next we have John LeBlanc.
Hi, guys. It's John. I'm out here in Berkeley.
Welcome, John. Thank you so much for trying to assist us with the echo.
What
Next
happened to Maglananda and Glory?
Well, I think he was having he said he was having some connection problems, so he's gonna be logging back on in a second.
Okay.
Yeah. So next we have Julia from Canada, Ontario.
Hello, everyone. It's autumn season in Ontario, and the trees are blowing their colorful leaves all over the place. It's really a time to see how changeable life is. And then the stability of the presence of Ma. So, Jai Ma.
Jai Ma, welcome. Thank you so much for joining in. Next we have Kamya.
Hello, my name is Kamya. I'm from Morrisville, North Carolina. Jai Ma.
Jema, welcome.
Jema Kamya, welcome.
Okay. Good to have you back, Anandamayi. And Gloria G.
I hope it doesn't happen again.
Okay. Michael Ziv. or Ziv.
Yeah, hi, it's Michael from Northern California, Jema.
Jema, Michael, welcome. And I'll contact you next week. We'll try to meet again.
Jema, welcome. Next we have Reed.
Hi, everybody. This is in Berkeley. Can you hear me and see me?
Yeah, absolutely.
Be here.
Good to see you, Reed. Jema.
Jema, welcome. Next we have Sanjay.
Jayama, this is Sanjay from Wichita, Kansas, and with me is Krishav and Shivang.
Jema Bhai. Good to see you all. Welcome.
Thank you.
Jema, welcome to the three of you. And next we have Saraswati or Barbara.
Jema, greetings from East Aurora, New York. Jema.
Jema Saraswati. Always good to see you.
Jema, welcome. And we have Shambhavi or Solveig.
Jema, that's Solveig or Shambhavi from Germany. Currently, I'm in Bad Meinberg in the ashram. That's why I soon have to leave because we are almost already in Mauna for the night. So let's see.
Oh.
I might gonna stay in silence with you, but I was just happy that I could find the time. So Jema, and also especially Jema from Rahil in Heppenheim. I spent the last week with her. Do you remember her, Mangalanandaji?
Yes.
Close to Heidelberg. And she was like saying, if you, whatsoever happens, and if you see them, just tell Jema. And so we're Jema, sorry.
Return my Jema. Good to see you. Good to see you, Shambhavi. It's been a long time.
Good to see you. And good to see you, Jyoti.
Yes, Swami Guru Shor and I used to always spend up to a week at Bad Meinberg Ashram teaching classes and doing kirtan. They were a big hall with hundreds of people. It was a wonderful place. They're doing so many different workshops and things there. It's a wonderful place. Good.
You should come back.
We'll see.
Back forward one day soon. That's in my heart. I pray for that.
We'll see what Ma does.
Jema, welcome. Next, we have Yana from Hawaii, the Big Island.
Jema, everyone. I'm here with Sarah.
Sarah, good. Jema wanted both of you. That's so good. See, another thing this satsang has done is introduce people who didn't know each other before as Ma devotees. It's so good. Good to see you both. Here, say hello again so you come back on the screen. I got speaker view on.
Jema.
Jema.
Good to see you both. That's really sweet. Really nice.
Aloha, Jema, and welcome to you both. And then finally, we have Yetesh Chaudhary. I love your last name.
Hello. Hi, this is Hitesh. I live in San Francisco. Yeah, I am really grateful to be here. I booked my tickets to go to India for December to February. And if you have plans, we can meet there as well. But I would love to meet here as well before going.
Absolutely. If you would put your phone number, if you don't mind, put your phone number in the text, and I'll probably going into San Francisco the 4th Sunday. I'd love to meet you in the morning. We could have coffee or something, and then also we can meet in India. Sure. Yeah. So put your name and your text and your phone number in the text if you don't mind doing that, and I'll be in touch. Be great.
Thank you. Jema.
Okay, somebody just joined
Yeah,
us.
2 people entered while you were talking, Renu. We gotta.
Okay, and I gotta scroll through and find out who they were. Rachael is one of them.
Rafael, can you say hello? We like to introduce everybody who's here because we're a community of Anandamayi Ma. Well, okay, let's continue. Excuse me.
Did I miss anybody else? I think there was one.
Sure.
Anybody else?
Yes, hello. Jaima from David here in Hillsborough, California. Jaima.
Good to see you, David. Okay, so let's go ahead and start. We're going to have a slight, we're taking suggestions from a very wonderful member of our community who suggested one slight change in our format. And we're going to try it. I think it's a good idea. We're going to put the sharing part at the very last, because what happens is we were putting meditation at the very last and running out of time and meditating for 2 minutes. So we're going to go ahead and have our singing and our readings and our photos of Ma, and then have 10 minutes of meditation. And then after that, we'll open the mics up and we can all share, ask questions or have discussion, whatever people would like to do. Okay. So as you know, if you've been here before, we always start with this one kirtan, Om Ma Sharanam, because we're going to tune. First of all, let's just say, why are we here? What is our sankalp in being here? Ma has called us all, because Ma said many times we can't even think of her unless she first thinks of us. So every one of us has been touched by Ma's grace. Every one of us has come within Ma's vision. And we're here to celebrate that and to go deeper into that and to invoke Ma into our minds and into our hearts. Because Ma was much more than just an historical character. She's an eternal reality that manifested in time and space temporarily, but she keeps that gateway open that when we think of her, the very thought of her is uplifting to the mind. Her only mission in life and coming was to awaken anyone she could, anyone she chose. So we were all on that path, excuse me, on that path to awakening through Ma's grace. So the more we think of her, the more we listen to her suggestions of how to continue our lives, the closer we get to our own true nature, which is the whole point of life. So it's actually a very profound thing that we're doing, invoking Ma and remembering her and studying about her. So we'll think of her more with our minds and our intellects later, but first let's invoke her with our hearts. And music does that. So we'll simply sing this beautiful phrase, Om Ma Sharanam. Sharanam is a refuge, a place of safety, a place of stability. So Ma is our one support, our Adhar.
Sound Mangalanandaji.
Ah, thank you. I always forget that's why you're here. Okay. Shri Shri Anandamayi Mata Ki Jai. Om Ma Sharanam. 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 Om Ma Anandamayi Ma, 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 Anandamayi Ma. Anandamayi Ma, Anandamayi Anandamayi Ma, 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 Anandamayi Ma. Om Sharanam, 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 Om So let's just sit quietly and feel Ma's presence with us, inside of us, all around us, as we think of her and study about her. So I like to always start with reading something from Ma's life to see how she interacted with people, how she lived her life in this world. This is a couple of readings from where it just you see how Ma's influence, her unspoken influence, before she even gave instruction or talked or related to the person, just sitting in her presence was so amazing. It actually can't be described with words. In the years I traveled with Ma, Randy, there's someone there to admit, okay. In the years I traveled with Ma, every night we would try to just sit with her and sing kirtan and just sit in front of her. And you felt like you were in a different world. Really, it was something that can't be described. But our first reading is from a man called Giri Shankar Bhattacharya. And he was one of the early devotees of Anandamayi Ma. And this is his first impression and what happened to him on his first darshan of Ma. It was very early in Ma's career, you could say, when her revelation. It was in the 20s when she was still at Shabad Gardens. So he first talks about Ramani Babu. Ramani Babu is Ma's husband, who later Ma called Bholanath, who we know as Bholanath. So the author, Giri Shankara Bhattacharya, says, Ramani Babu was then living in a small building in the garden with his family, that is, Anandamayi Ma and 1 or 2 other members. There were 2 rooms in the building, one rather small and the other a little bigger. The shades of evening were gathering, and the extensive and carefully tended garden looked somewhat somber owing to the tall and leafy trees, filling our hearts with reverence, while the sweet perfume of the numerous flowering plants nearby added a rare charm. We were given asanas on the floor of the bigger room, those little seats, and near the door between the rooms sat Ramani Babu, while in the small room sat Mataji. She did not yet speak to any stranger, and questions put to her would be answered through Ramani Babu. In other words, Ma was still in silence during her 6 years of what we call her sadhana lila in Bajipur. She began to speak after this. She sat partly veiled so that I could not get a full view of her face. No sooner had I taken my seat than I felt myself in a peculiar state of mind, of which I had no previous experience, and the reason for which is yet a mystery to me. I had gone to see Mataji with hardly any preconceived notion, and indeed I did not expect to be very much interested. The state of mind of which I speak is difficult to describe. In any case, I can give an adequate idea of it. Excuse me. Having some chest problems. I'm okay. All thoughts and ideas seemed to have vanished from my mind, in which his mind became still when he sat in Ma's presence. It's a common phenomena. All thoughts and ideas seemed to have vanished from my mind, and practically oblivious as I was of the surrounding, there was a sense of great pleasure and ease, very great pleasure, arising from what I do not know. Almost as long as I was in the presence of Mataji, my mind was in that state. I left the place, however, with the Rai Bahadur, somewhat surprised at what had happened, and spoke to him about it on the way. He gave me the Shastric name for it. What struck me then, as it strikes me now, is that this was an experience which came, as it were, of itself. I should have regarded it as accidental, was it not for the fact that a similar experience came to me next year, 1926, at the Shiv Nivas in the Nadia district in the same circumstances. That is, I was sitting near Ma while the evening closed upon us. I was therefore led to think that on both of these occasions, Ma, for reasons best known to her, induced a peculiar state of mind in me, and since I found it very pleasurable, I felt attracted towards her. Thus became an acquaintance and relationship with her ineffable grace that has ripened into relation no whit less dear than the dearest in the world. Isn't that beautiful? So just, he had that experience with maybe all of us who sat with Ma, that at one point where suddenly you're just, first of all, your mind would just be still when you're with her. And then there would be such a bliss and such an unearthly, unworldly joy that no, it couldn't be described. The next similar things where Ma was just sitting and these things happened. This is from the diary of Melita Marschmann, who is a German devotee of Ma, who I knew. When I was traveling Ma, I had quite a lot of contact with her. She was an elderly lady who had been, she'd been a Nazi. She'd been in charge of the Hitler Youth of Poland, and she was in jail for war crimes. I mean, she didn't do anything herself, but she was just because of her position, she was in jail at the end of the war. And she had this religious conversion in jail and became totally devoted to spirituality afterwards. And she met Ma back in the 50s, I think, and stayed with her whole life. She, at the end of her life, she passed away in Germany in an old age home. But she was very spirited, and she wrote a couple of books about Ma and had a very precise diary of her experiences with Ma. And she was an author, so she wrote very well. So this is just an excerpt from her diary in December 1963. And it goes to show again how Ma could just be sitting and have an incredible influence. So Melita says, yesterday afternoon, Mataji for a whole hour sat on her bed completely absorbed, without the slightest movement. Only her eyelids raised themselves off and on, but her glance reminded me of that of a blind person. It was turned towards the world without perceiving it. Her whole being expressed contemplation, the contemplation of God. reflection of his light by the mirror of the soul. A particle of this light occasionally reflects in us, then only we can perceive it. Yesterday, as an elderly man sat in front of Ma, I was told that he was the principal of a college. Suddenly his face tore open like a bleeding wound, suffering for himself, for the world, for God. There is nothing that can be concealed at such a moment. Later, when Ma returned, in quotes, in other words, her consciousness came back, her glance rested for a long time on the face of the gentleman, and suddenly he began to cry. He shut his eyes and tears trickled down from under his closed eyelids. After a while, he fell full length at Ma's feet. Then he stood up and went away. It sometimes happens that a person who leaves Mataji as the man did transforms his home into an ashram the next day or puts on the robe of a sadhu. I have heard many reports of how, without acting, Ma has changed the lives of many people, usually much less ostentatiously, but not any less effectively, always in the direction of what she calls the goal of human existence, namely the realization of God. Isn't that beautiful? Just Ma's presence was itself enough to do everything. And now, later, Pragya will also read a satsang, a live satsang of Ma, but this is this is a conversation took place because in Ma's company, the interactions with Ma were always very joyful and very lively, and people would joke with Ma, and Ma would answer in veiled ways. It was very beautiful. So this is one such conversation where the person speaking is representing all the crowd there. He's alluding to Ma as the Divine Mother, but he's not saying it. So here's what he says. This is from the book In Association with Sri Sri Ma Anandamayi by Amulya Gupta. It's a beautiful diary of this Bengali man who spent decades with Ma. It's really worth reading. So the questioner says, Ma, I want to ask you something. Besides our mother who gave us birth in this world, we are told we have another mother who understands our joys and sorrows, to whom we can submit our unreasonable grievances, who puts up with our egotism and helps us in times of danger and distress. Does such a mother really exist or not? You know, it's like a playful interaction. Ma, of course, he's asking Ma, are you my mother? Ma says, she does exist. Question, but why can't she save us some scratches? Ma, don't you know? You are also the parents of children. You let your children play games because you know this is good for them. While playing, they sometimes hurt themselves, falling down or get covered with mud and dirt. But when you scrub and clean them, they start crying loudly. Similarly, when in your family life you suffer pain and sorrow, remember that this is nothing but your mother cleaning you of dirt. Having started on the simile of children's education, I can also point out that the mother does not entrust all things to her children in spite of loving them. She carefully puts away articles that are of value. Otherwise, they might be spoiled by her children. When the time is ripe, the mother entrusts those things to her sons and daughters. So there was no cause for despair. Continue to perform your work. If you do not see quick results, remember your labor is not wasted. The mother is preserving everything. At the right moment, will hand it over to you. So the questioner is still going on. So can we rely on this mother? Ma, I assure you, you can be entirely free from all anxiety. Just go on practicing your japa or whatever other spiritual disciplines you have chosen. And then the questioner kind of loses his candid thing. He starts talking directly to Ma. He says, then why do you insist on nama japa or similar practices? Our worldly mother does not insist on anything for ensuring the well-being of her children. And Ma replies, this mother is somewhat different from your worldly mother. This mother wants her sons and daughters endowed with her qualities and become like her. This is why she tells her children to resort to the holy name. This mother wishes to mold her children in her own image. She wants to inculcate into her children all her virtues and qualities so that these may be revealed to them by their own experience. For these reasons, this mother is somewhat different from the worldly mother. And he concludes by saying, At these words of confident assurance from Sri Ma, everyone present appeared to be relieved. There was a look of joy in their eyes and faces. But isn't that beautiful? It's very typical of the interaction that people who were close to devotees of Ma would have with Ma. They would speak in joking ways, and they would go back and forth in these wonderful things. So see, Ma admits these, she's a divine mother right there. But how beautiful this is, that she wants, unlike our earthly mother who loves us and wants us to be best in this world, Ma wants to give us all of her spiritual wealth. And that requires great preparation on our part. This is why she insists on sadhana, that everything comes from her grace, but we have to prepare ourselves to receive this. You see, we're still children. And if we're really her children, we surrender ourselves to her, but we do what she says. And she always insisted, do your sadhana. Yeah. So let's read a few practical words of instruction from Ma. I've got things everywhere. First, I found this recently. I never read this before, and it's very interesting. This is being broadcast from California, the land of fruits and nuts. And so many people here are just cracked on health food, And Ma and all great teachers always insist, they usually insist on a vegetarian diet for the purification of the mind and body. But everyone says, keep a healthy diet. And no one disagrees with that. But Paramhansa Yogananda once said, when he was asked about food choices, he said, you should find a healthy, balanced vegetarian diet and stick to it tenaciously and then forget about it. He said, don't dwell on food all the time. So this is Ma's take. And I think it's really interesting because she gives a whole different focus than just on food. Okay, so Ma says, she uses the word sattvic food. Sattvic means endowed with the nature of sattva, which is light, purity, cleanness, upward vibration. So Ma says, you were all given to much discussion about sattvic food. For this body, sattvic food means to nourish oneself with divine thoughts and emotions and to abide in the awareness of truth or God. That's Ma's dietary restrictions. If once a day you eat perfectly pure food, but remain engrossed in worldly thoughts all day and night, of what value can sattvic food possibly be to you? Within the mortar of the mind, pound the medicine of God's name or of self-inquiry with the honey of pure aspiration and partake of this mixture. In this way, the opportunity for right diet as well as the necessary ingredients for making it effective will be provided from within. At all times, let your objectives be noble, give your whole attention to whatever you undertake, and your mind and body will then develop the qualities you are trying to create by sattvic food. Isn't that interesting? So through our attitude, through our thoughts, through our purified emotions, purified by spiritual aspiration, we get the benefit of what we're trying to do through eating food. So again, she says, anything taken in through the senses is food. Therefore, be watchful and see that you do not become addicted to whatever you absorb into yourself. Strive always to keep your appetites under control. So that's just think about that for a moment. That's such a different perspective. Shankaracharya also said our food is taken in not just through our mouth, through all our senses, whatever we see, whatever we hear, whatever we hear people speak. So we have to be very guarded about keeping our diet pure. In other words, don't want to just sit down and watch some violent movie or something that's going to put all these images in our mind. They're harmful. That's bad food. Yeah. Okay, let's read a little bit more, then we'll go over to Pragya. So Ma says more. Ma frequently, almost always, replied to herself as Ye Sharir, this body. She would sometimes say I, but she wouldn't normally say I. She would say this body says, because she saw herself in everything, but she was happening to be speaking through that body at the time. So Ma says, a peculiarity of approaching this body is that everything from within is brought out. Had you gone elsewhere, many things would have remained hidden within you. But having come to this body, everything has become revealed. This is for your good. Is it safe to keep snakes in your caverns? Who knows when they may raise their hoods? It is far better to extract these reptiles once and for all and clear the road, for further progress. And the great Pandit of Varanasi, Gopinath Kaviraj, who was an ardent devotee of Anandamayi Ma from the 20s, and he left his body in the 70s in Ma's ashram. He was considered a saint in his own right and one of the greatest pundits of India. He was respected throughout India as the most knowledgeable of the scriptures. And he said the first time he saw Ma, he saw everything that he studied in the scriptures embodied. And he made the same observation. He said, we're talking about sattva guna. He says, you can come to some saints who are very evolved and they'll have the quality of sattva. That's the quality of the highest light and energy and shakti. And he says sattva guna will be emanating from something. And so you get a blessing of sattva guna and you feel very uplifted. But it's, in a way, it's superficial. And he said, if you come near Ma, Anandamayi Ma, Gopinath Kaviraj said, she is triguna tita. She is beyond the three gunas. She dwells in a state beyond the three gunas in absolute divine consciousness. So he said, when you come near her, it penetrates, the experience penetrates into your being and everything comes out. And we saw it many times in ourselves and in other people that sometimes you just, you be in your mind, your ego goes crazy. And I think I shared with you about my day of initiation when she was going to come in the room, my ego was just screaming. So Ma would just bring everything out. So even now, those who haven't met Ma in person, Ma is still acting in the same way. When we turn to Ma, when we go to Ma, we have refuge, but she won't allow these snakes, as she says, of egotism and desire and deception and delusion in our hearts to remain. She flushes them out. And it can be an intense experience. So be forewarned. It can be dangerous. Definitely dangerous for the ego to be with Ma. Okay, Ma continues. To tell the truth, while some people undoubtedly do approach this body in quest of reality, very many come only to get their desires and longings fulfilled. Although you have had unmistakable proof of what the true nature of the world is, your heart is still in it? Relative happiness, which is happiness depending on anything, must end in grief. It is a human being's duty to meditate on God, who is peace itself. Without having recourse to that which aids the remembrance of God, there can be no peace. Have you not seen what life in this world is? The one to be loved and sought is God. In him is everything. Him you must try to find. This is Ma's message in a nutshell. She always would say, you see what this world is. There's only peace on the path to God. When you turn your face to God and start walking on that path, then you can start to experience peace. And this world is just, it's constantly moving and changing. You can't find any stability there. Ma continues, for every individual, the road to illumination is different. Wherever you may be, from there itself start advancing. For there is only he and no other. He himself is holding you. He never, never forsakes you. And one last thing about, again, about the mother. Your mother may not show her affection outwardly, yet she is always and remains your real mother. Even though you may want to put God, the divine mother, aside, she will not leave you. Are you not her offspring? Keep in mind that everything is under her dispensation. She provides each the right thing at the right time, in the right way. Yes, certainly it is to be welcome if the desire for the real awakens. A mother is she who has the capacity to know precisely and measure out to her child exactly what they need. It is because she loves, it's because she knows how to make allowances for her child's mistakes, how to forgive, that she is called mother. Isn't that beautiful? It's so reassuring. And we just recently had the 9 days Navaratri, the 9 nights of the Divine Mother, celebrating the Divine Mother, which her presence is so strong during that time. So if anybody has any questions or comments or stuff, if you write them down so you remember them, won't forget them, but we have later we can talk about anything from the reading or anything you like. But now let's go on to Pragya. And Pragya, again, for those who are here the first time, maybe just briefly talk about the book that you're publishing soon. And we're going to have a reading from Pragya.
Jai Ma, right now, I think the sound should shift to seeing me, but do you see me?
Yeah, we see you, and it sounds good. There's no echo now. It's good.
Oh, good. Okay, so I have been for the last 7 years blessed with a project of editing the satsangs from the last 20 years of Anandamayi Ma's life. from 1960 to 1981. And they were recorded on a little tape recorder. And then we've had to transliterate them, translate them, and edit them to flow in English. So this is a tape from Kankal, where Ma's Samadhi is, in 1978. It's tape number 80. And it's a beautiful conversation in which Ma's answering a question about sound. And I think what we see is Ma is always taking us to the unity of all in every conversation. Shri Ma, he is manifested in the very path that one follows. He is manifested in the very path that one follows. What a nice arrangement. For example, there is one movement when you're driving a car, but it has several sounds depending on how fast your car is going, right? Ekam Brahma Dvitiya Nasti. God is one. There is no second. In reality, that sound is only one. He is the real Shabda sound. Only one in billions is able to realize that Shabda. Everyone cannot realize it. Just now you were talking about the pranava. That's God as the syllable Om, the original sound. Until that pranava is pronounced and its meaning is comprehended, he is not manifested. Every word has its meaning. Sometimes a word does not have any meaning. Sometimes it is even wrongly construed. Artha, the correct meaning, guides a person correctly, while anartha, the wrong meaning, leads him on the wrong path. One should rise above this artha and anartha. Only then will he have him manifested. What is this Vishva, this universe? The Lord has shown his Vishvarupa, his form as the universe, in the Bhagavad Gita. You have all seen illustrations of that episode of the Bhagavad Gita. She's referring to chapter 11. What is shown in that image? Have you seen it? A number of men, women, and creatures are entering into his mouth, and so many others are coming out of it, right? Yes, the whole universe is coming and going, but the I remains intact. That one Shabda, divine sound, is revealed in different Shabdas. There are different Shabdas following different states and vision. But apart from these Shabdas, there is the one Akhanda Tvani, unceasing sound going on. No action or form is produced from that Tvani. He is Kriyatita, beyond action. He is Rupatita, beyond form. With him is manifested the whole, but it is very difficult to understand all this. This is not a thing to be understood. He cannot be seen by the intellect, right? And Ma laughs. He is to be felt, not by the mind, but by the self. This pranava, this rupa, this prakash, light, and this vigraha, form of God, are seen in different ways depending upon one's own state of mind and vision. But in fact, he is one. Similarly, you hear different sounds while in fact, it is one. For example, you are one, but you're called Gurubai, brother in the Guru, and Shisha, disciple, as well as the name that you've been given by your Guru. It does not mean that you are three different people. Just as you are one, though called by three different names, so he is one, and also Ananta, infinite. He is Rupa. He is Arupa. He is the one from whom the Rupa is manifested. He is the one from whom Kriya is manifested. He himself is neither Rupa nor Kriya. When someone wants you to give the meaning of pranava, the syllable Om, what do? You analyze this pranava and you say it consists of this letter and that letter. Similarly, when you explain the meaning of a word, you analyze it and say that it contains these particular letters. It is only an explanation. By that explanation, the exact thing is not seen. The exact thing is beyond those letters, words, and explanations. It is beyond all of these things, right? He is above akshara, sacred syllables, shabda, sound, rupa, form, and guna, quality. Yet what you utter and explain is either akshara, shabda, rupa, and guna, right? The one who is called God is above all of these things. Questioner. And he is called Anahata Dvani, the unstruck sound. Shrima. Yes, and these are and these all are not he, because they are all ahata, produced by striking. He is Anahata Dvani, the unstruck sound. He does not require anything. Ma laughs. He is on his own. He is not to be seen through the explanations of Shabda and Akshara given in the scriptures. Pranava is there in everyone and everything. Pranava exists in each and every Akshara. Without Pranava, no Shabda or Akshara could have existed. There would have been no Spandana, vibration. There would have been no Kriya, action. It is all due only to that Pranava. Once that Pranava is properly pronounced, the one who is above and beyond all these, Shabda, Akshara, Rupa, and Kriya, will be manifested. It is only he and nothing but he. He. Something and he do not exist side by side. Ma laughs. If something exists, he does not. And she laughs again. And if he exists, something does not. Jema.
Wow. That's one of the most profound readings. See, okay, this word yoga has been diluted to mean just yogasanas, exercise in the West. That, what we just heard, is yoga. That's extremely esoteric, incredibly yogic explanation of the meaning of existence. Wow. What struck me was, and people take notes if you want to ask questions or something that struck you in this reading too, and we can talk about it at the end. What struck me, she says, God is not revealed until that Shabda sounds, that Pranava, that Om sounds. And again, this isn't something we can make happen. Our job, this shows how Ma is stressing, why Ma is stressing such sadhana, because these states all can only be attained through interiorization of the mind and purification of the mind and heart. We will hear that Shabda, that Pranava, when we simply still the mind. We don't have to try to produce it and say Om, Om, Om. I mean, we say Om to still the mind, but we don't think we have to produce it. It's unstruck. And we will experience it when we, through our meditation practice, through the breath, through the mantra, we still the mind and make the mind perfectly still, like Patanjali says in the Yoga Shastras. The definition of yoga is yogas chitta vritti nirodha. Yoga is the stilling, the complete stilling of all the vasanas in the mind. So then it says, so that the practitioner rests in his own swarup. So what we have to do is learn through our practice, our inner practice, to become very alert and concentrate totally on what it is we're using, whether it's sound or breath or mantra. My most often recommended mantra. And then when the mind is completely still, that Shabda will, that Om, that Pranava will sound, and then we go into all these states and we experience them. But this is a profound explanation of these really interior and divine states. And at one point it said in English, is only he. Ma always said, vahi, only that. Va is a genderless pronoun. It can mean male or female, depending on the verb. She uses to say, vahi, only that, only he, only she. Vahi, only that exists. And this is, again, the essence of Ma's teaching. We, in our ashram, especially, and I lived 12 years in Omkareshwar ashram, and the Mahant of the ashram, the head of the ashram, was a very great both saint and scholar. And he had compiled all of Ma's teachings into several books in Hindi, and we studied them so thoroughly. And if you could capsulize them, there's one thing that Ma was saying: everything that comes to us is divine. Everything is divine. And she's showing this here in this reading in a very esoteric yogic explanation about everything is both that sound that's produced, unstruck sound, and also the one who's producing it is beyond it all. It's beyond the detas, gunas, beyond the sounds. Yeah, but beyond vibration. Yeah. But the vibration is also her. It's also her. So, wow. We could read that reading 10 times and study every word and never get the end of it. It's just, wow, that's really amazing. Yeah, it's a little past 2. What our suggestion from our friend in our community was that at this point now, because we got the flow of Ma's words and Ma's feeling, at this point now, we go ahead and sing our last kirtan and do our meditation because we're in that flow. And then we'll help open up the floor to discussion and to sharing. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, so let's, first of all, according to Renu, we're going to turn on the original sound. Let's sing one more kirtan. And while we're doing that, we'll have Darshan and Ma, because Ma now, these days, gives Darshan through her photos. It's such a wonderful thing. So I'm going to show some photos of Ma, if I can do this right. This kirtan is qualities of Ma. Anandamayi, Chaitanyamayi, Karunamayi, Parameshwari. It means she's full of bliss. She's full of divine consciousness. Anandamayi, Chaitanya, full of compassion, the supreme goddess. Anandamayi, Chaitanyamayi, Karunamayi, Parameshwari. Chaitanyamayi, Karunamayi, Parameshwari. Anandamayi, Chaitanyamayi, Karunamayi, Shri Ma Jaya Jaya Ma. Om Ma 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 Shri Ma Jaya Jaya Ma. Anandamayi, Chaitanyamayi, Karunamayi, Parameshwari. Chaitanyamayi, Karunamayi, Parameshwari. Anandamayi, Chaitanyamayi, Karunamayi, Parameshwari. Anandamayi, Chaitanyamayi, Parameshwari. Hey Ma. Shri Shri Anandamayi Mata Ki Jai. So we can continue to let our eyes rest on Ma, but we'll meditate for about 10 minutes, and I'll kind of talk you through a little bit how Ma suggested meditating with mantra and breath. So we should sit with the spine erect, the chest erect, but a very comfortable way where the body's completely relaxed. And then we let our mind just sink into the present moment. We become very aware of just here and now. Letting go of the past, the future, letting any thoughts that come by just flow by without catching hold of them. And resting in the present moment. And then we just become aware of the breath flowing in front of us. We feel its touch at the nostril, we feel its movement in the chest. We just watch and observe the breath in its natural rhythm without changing it. Just observing the breath, letting the mind, which is in the moment, just rest in the breath. And then we add whatever mantra that we work with. If we have a personal mantra, we can use that, or we can use Om, or if we want to remember Ma, we can use Om Ma. So watching the breath, we mentally intone as we breathe in, Om Ma. As we breathe out, Om Ma. Om Ma. Om Ma. And we just continue this. We relax into this practice. We relax the mind into the moment, into the breath, and feel the mantra vibrating in the breath, moving with the breath, enlivening the breath, very naturally, very relaxed way. And when the mind wanders off, we gently just pull it back to this, the moment, the breath, the mantra. And we continue this for about 10 minutes. Any thought that the mind gloms onto, just release it. Let the thought flow on by and come back to the name with the breath in the moment. Shri Shri Anandamayi Mata Ki Jai. So we had Shabda Brahma manifesting as our neighbor's lawnmower. Okay, well now we have time. We've gotten all the good stuff done. We have time for sharing. So I invite anyone who would like to share some thoughts. Now let's try to keep really on the subject of Anandamayi Ma over here and her teaching in our lives and how it's applied. So yeah, Rainey, why don't you?
Arpita ji raised her hand first.
Arpita?
Yeah, I really appreciated that reading. And so what I heard was that one could focus on the sound or the form, the light, among other things, and it was all one. So the mantra, and so yeah, it's like a door that leads into the one, or like it is the one, but yet it also is a door to lead into the one. Any of those forms or aspects, right?
Yeah.
And so I heard, I had a teacher, Ajahn Sumedho, a Buddhist monk, and I went to a retreat that he led. And he meditates on sound. He focuses on sound, and he calls it the sound of silence. That's his name for it. And it was very interesting because I had always used the breath as my primary focus, and sometimes mantra. And it was just a very, if you open yourself up to hearing, it's like just opening yourself up to hearing. And so many times we don't hear, we shut sound out, because a lot of times sound is noxious or irritating or too stimulating or something like that. And so just allowing the sound and then just listening or hearing the sound it's incredible, really. I guess if you're a musician, it's not the case because you're always aware of sound, right? I guess, I assume. But for a lot of people, they shut sound out unless it's music that they like.
That's one way of bringing the mind back into the present moment too, is just sit still and be aware of the sounds around you. And then that brings you back into that moment, and then you just become aware of your own awareness. Yeah, but it's true. Ma said all those things can be used, and each person will have their own way of doing it. But meditation on sound is very powerful. It's true. Now, Ma did generally recommend the mantra as the sound to listen to, but there are all sorts of inner sound meditations. And if a person feels one of that, it can, it's a valid meditation practice. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's what I heard. That's what I heard her saying. This is what I got from this particular reading, and I'm wondering when it was made, when this talk was given. I'm curious about that.
I think
and in what company, like who was there, and
yeah, I think Pragya said 1978, but Pragya didn't say where that satsang was from, because it's true. It had to be a very receptive group to be able for her to speak on such a deep level.
Yeah.
It says Kankal.
Okay, Kankal in 1978, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Do you know who was there? Like, was it? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you never know. But like Ma always said, she said this body is a drum, and it plays the way you play it is what you're going to hear. So evidently there's some very receptive people hearing that depth of yogic explanation out of Ma. It's really beautiful.
Yeah, thank you.
Arpita ji, I was at a retreat recently too, where there was a musician, a tabla player, who also gave he gives whole entire like 5-day workshops on tuning into sounds, but from inanimate objects. Like can you hear the rock? You know, maybe not right away, but if you tune into it and, you know, kind of dive into it and listen to the sound of the silence, like you can maybe hear the crickets more, you can hear the rocks, you can hear the mountain, you can hear different
It's very
things.
revelatory, isn't it?
It is.
It's not just like somebody is playing a sound, which is a whole different thing. It's like just hearing the outer sounds and then the inner sounds.
Yeah.
Very cool.
John, I think you just texted me a quote from Kabir. Will you share that with us?
Well, yeah, I put it in the chat window. Let me shoot it off, but I wanted you to see it in the Hindi.
Yeah. Sahasi upsha jo dhvani japte japte naam. Vahi anahat naad hai.
Uh-oh.
Hokram say Abhiram. Were you muted? Oh, okay. Oh, my internet connection. Am I frozen up? I'm not sure. I think I've lost
Yeah,
you.
Manvananda, you're having some bandwidth issues.
Yeah. But did you share the translation from Kabir? Very well.
Yeah, I put it in the chat window.
Why don't you read it real quick?
Okay. The sound that springs spontaneously while meditating on the name, that is the unstruck sound, unbroken in its enchantedness. So my question is, this is a sound that's heard inside the mind or within the heart, right? It's not something you would hear physically in your physical ear. Is that correct, or am I misunderstanding?
Absolutely correct. And notice how, so go ahead. Yes, go ahead, please.
Because sometimes I think I hear that, but it's just my ears ringing, or the person outside is mowing the lawn, or there's, you know, various sounds here in Berkeley all the time. So it's hard to get that level of quietness. But as far as my studies, I thought that if you hear it with your ear, that's not really it. It's something you hear within your own being.
Yeah, and the sounds we hear outside, like our neighbor's lawnmower, we're hearing, that's also shabda. That's like the external shell of that inner shabda. But the mind has to hear that inner shabda. The mind has to become interiorized, which only happens through meditation. When we withdraw the prana from going out of the senses by closing our eyes, by turning our mind inwards, and see how Kabir says, it's the sound of the name.
Right.
Sound of the name, that inner sound, that unstruck sound comes. We listen to the sound of the mantra as we were just doing meditation with the breath. And then as the mind quiets, suddenly that inner sound will rise up. And it comes from the divine sound of the mantra. But that quiets the mind to the point we can hear it. But it is true. The external sounds we hear are still shabda, but they're that very external husk of it. And the real inner unstruck sound is only heard through the inner ear, through the ear you would develop during meditation. Ma said many times, through meditation, you develop inner eyes, you develop inner ears, you develop inner touch. And that's how you contact God. Because God will never be, even though we said Ma was divine and we saw her outside, the real contact with God doesn't come outside. It has to come through the inner contact.
Right. So if you hear, if you stop repeating the name, but you hear the name inside you still going on, is that it?
That's the doorway to it. That's the gateway. I think the unstruck sound is just one divine presence. But that's a japa, where you've concentrated so much in the mind, the japa continues by itself, and you just pay attention to it, listen to it, and that is the portal which will take you to the anahata shabda.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Kabir. Also, that's really very relevant.
Hi, this is Devashish. I just would like to add a couple of words here in this context.
Yes,
So this thing in Hindi, it comes like Sahaj Upje Jo Duni Japte Japte Naam Wahi Anahat Hai Naad Hai Aur Ho Kram Se Abhiram. So this is something that is achieved at a very, very high level of enlightenment. I mean, one has to practice this for a long time. Or maybe you could also say it this way, that if it is for someone who's already very highly evolved, that person may get to this at a quick stage, but for most people, it requires a lot of time. As you said, that from when the naam becomes, you cease the naam physically, and yet it continues. It is that stage is called ajapa, and that is the portal for going into this stage. But I've heard that when you read this stage where you can hear the anahat sound, the sadhak then immediately recognizes it. And there is no doubt then that this is the real thing. All I know is that we need to just persist in doing this thing.
Yes, thank you. That's a very good point. Yes. This is why Ma said, keep up with your sadhana. He says there's almost infinite experiences that lead to the self. There's very many stages, and we don't even start it unless we're doing an inner practice. Just doing external religious rites are also important, but the real thing is to internalize the mind through meditation and to still the mind. And as you say, that's a lifetime of practice right there. But it's worth doing, and no effort is wasted. So yes, thank you for that contribution. We're having great contributions today. This is good. Anything else anyone wants to share? Along any subject related to Ma, or along with this subject we're on with how to sound.
I'd say one of my favorite parts of kirtan, especially like yours, is like after you're done chanting, that's when I feel like, for me personally, that I can get to that stillness point, as close as I can get right now.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's why I always do it after a kirtan when I'm doing it with my full group and everything. Afterwards, we always just stop and sit, and then you feel the vibration still moving, and it's true. That's where, even if the kirtan was very animated, like bum bum bum, hari bol, when you stop, it's still, the mind's still, and that's a good point, Minnie. Thank you. You're our number one groupie, so you should know.
Hello, everyone. I really loved everything that was shared today. Mangalananda, when you spoke about those who were in the presence of Ma, and when there was no talking that needed to happen, when they were free from the anxiety of analysis and thinking, and that's what came through in in that incredible those words that she said, just it's beyond the gunas, and it's just such an honor to continue to share with you each month, and that we do need to come together and just continue to hear the truth. And I'm just so grateful. Ma has brought me on this incredible journey, and it does end with the Vedanta, and I'm lucky to have a teacher of Vedanta and Sanskrit, and it just, everything synthesizes and has come together in this week. And to hear those words from Ma, just, it's like the icing, this beautiful icing on such a cake from Ma. Thank you, Mom. So love you all. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Saraswati. That's a beautiful statement. Yeah, it is true. So often Ma's presence and teachings would draw everything together. Everything people learn from other sources, Ma would kind of make sense of it and bring it all together. And it is true. The main thing Ma imparted was in silence, like the great sage Ramana Maharshi, who lived in Tiruvannamalai just until 1950. You probably read about him. People would just sit in his presence. In fact, he would still go to that hall and sit there, and he would rarely speak. He would sometimes say very profound words, but mostly he would say, "What I'm sharing is in silence." He says, "Silence is the language of the soul." So because then the mind stops, and people would just sit with him in silence and have all these incredible experiences. One time we were sitting with our Swami Kedarnath in Omkareshwar ashram of Ma, and we were all sitting quietly. And he looked at us and said, "What I'll share with you, I'll share in silence." And we sat with him for about an hour in silence. It was wonderful what he shared. So yeah, we'll miss it. we need to use our intellect in certain areas, but other times it's best to shut it off and go be quiet as possible. Yeah, thank you, Saraswati. Someone else has something? Rachel?
Rachel. Unmute. There I am. Yes, I love this new format, Mangalananda, because of having more time to meditate like that. I love all of these satsangs, but this one particular, I could feel that deep, deep silence and bliss. And I love the guided, can everyone hear me all right?
Yes, yes.
Okay. I loved the guided part of Om Ma, just that Om Ma and breathing in and out. And it's so simple. And I can tell when I've done mantra to silence and go past completely the sound and mind, and you're just in that deep, deep silence. The mind's shut off. It's so beautiful. Like Arpita so beautifully said, of using it as a doorway. And I have found at times when there's so much activity in my day, or the mind is just going so much, and doing the mantra, and I'm not quite slipping in that space yet. And I don't give up. I just keep doing the mantra. And then before I know it, the mantra is going on itself. Like one teacher I had many years, it's just like your liver is saying the mantra, your organs are saying the mantra, your body. And then I notice I do this all the time before I slip off to sleep. So that was so beautiful doing that. And in just that 10 minutes, I mean, I actually haven't felt that much in a while, but that just passed through and went into that deep, I think because we're all doing it together. And like the other woman said, it's so powerful when we join together. And yes, I do this by myself too, but it was just so beautiful. And I wanted to share about the reading that Pragya did, that very ending where Ma said, if there's something that I guess the mind is focusing on, there isn't God. And if there's God, there's no something. And it reminded me of her quote where she says, and I love this one, of God is love, truth, happiness. Do not set your sights or hopes on anything but the supreme beatitude, the bliss of the self. Naught else exists. Nothing else exists. And it reminded me, just yesterday we were talking about another Zoom call, something else of A Course in Miracles, where it's like God is and nothing else is. And the commentary, the teacher then was saying, no one has a problem with the fact that God is, but everyone seems to have a challenge grasping, having that understanding of nothing else is, in a sense. And I know Ma's talked about not just neti neti betiti, where everything is God, but that saying at the end, if there's a something, because God is one, there is no second. And so I recognize that whenever there's sometimes a focus on that something, I'm not focusing on God. So using mantra, or just getting back, or just saying God, 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 or Ma, 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 or Om Ma, it's so powerful. And I see why she says always, just using the name of God always, and it just will get you through. And I think she said something to the effect of chanting the name of God can release lifetimes of karma. So anyway, this was a beautiful satsang. I love this new format of having more chance to deepen in like that. And the kirtan before, like Renu said, the kirtan, and then the little bit of guidance before of just Om Ma breathing, and then the quiet. It was just so beautiful. I'm so grateful to have touched into that again with everyone. So thank you, Jai Ma.
Oh, thank you, Raquel. Beautiful. Yeah. Yeah. You see, the Western philosophy, especially I think Christian Judaic philosophy, states, because it came from the minds of philosophers using the worldly mind, they said God created the world out of nothing. Now that's a real puzzler, because there's God and there's this thing called nothing that he created the world with. So what's this nothing? So, the great seers of India, the rishis, saw that God, there was no such thing as creation. Everything is projected. God projects himself and splits into, Purusha and Prakriti, but it's nothing but God. As Ma said, there's nothing but God. And it's true. That was a very graphic way she put it, where if there's something here, God's not there. because there's nothing else but God. It's really true. So she always say, Sab Bhagavan Hai, everything is God. And also we owe this new format to a suggestion from Dr. Murad, which we appreciate, because it really is better, isn't it? We're kind of in the stream, and then we have the time to meditate. We'd always be so late, we cut the meditation short. So this is a better way to do it. Then we have plenty of time to talk also. So good. Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Murad, for a good suggestion. It's working. Good. So yeah, what wonderful sharings where people are giving from their heart. It's so beautiful. Anybody else? I think Michael, you have your hand up.
Yes. I just wanted to share this interview I heard. It's related to Ma. It was on Buddha at the Gas Pump, or backgap.com, I think, or backgap.org. And he interviewed this woman, Shambhavi Sarasvati, who was a teacher in two lineages. One is Kashmiri Shaivism, and the other is Dzogchen practice.
Yeah, we know her. We had lunch with her just before she left town.
Oh, wonderful. So she's, had all these teachings, and she started having dreams about Ma in her 40s. And she was in India, so she went to the Varanasi ashram, and she was just drawn there, and she somebody directed her to go up onto the terrace, and she went up there, and her experience just changed her whole life. She had this experience of Ma, and it's like 10 minutes into this interview, and it's just so inspiring that I wanted to just share it with you all.
That's beautiful. Yeah, she's a wonderful soul. I first met her when she had a place in Portland, and she arranged me to have a kirtan there because I was, doing kirtan to raise money for a school in India. And I saw her website, it says something about Tantra, and I thought, oh no, this might be weird. But I remember I walked up to her door, and she walked out. I looked at her, and she said, "Hi, I'm Shambhavi." And I thought, I like this person. She's good. She's okay. She's really okay. And she's definitely touched by Ma. She has very deep contact with Ma. Now, I always kind of warn Ma devotees, if they're going to study the things she says, she sometimes teaches things that she supposedly heard from Ma in vision, which aren't in accordance with Ma's teachings that we know. So I always say, use a little grain of salt there. She's a dear soul, and we love her very much. In fact, Gloria and I had lunch with her. She was living here in the Bay Area for a few years, and then she moved back up to Portland. So we went and had lunch with her before she left just recently, a few months ago. So thank you, Michael. It's an inspiring story. Actually, she definitely had a very deep experience of Ma. It's molded her whole spiritual life after that. It's true.
Yeah.
See, that's why it shows. If you met Ma in person, it was a wonderful blessing. But Ma is still so active, and guiding so many people's lives. She's still just as accessible and just as real now to all of us. So it's really wonderful. Rainer, does anybody else have their hand up?
Nobody else has their hand up, but I had something to say about the reading that Punya did. I think you and I studied when we were doing our Sanskrit practice. We studied Ma's Vakyas, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
the Mahamantra, Mahavakyas, Ma.
And I think she said one of those in the reading. It was like something like Eka Brahma, something about that one.
Yeah.
Maybe
only divine and nothing else exists.
Yeah. Can we revisit that? What is it?
Yes. Boliye bhai. In Sanskrit.
Yeah. Eka Brahma. There's only one Brahma. Dvitiya Nasti. Nothing else.
Yeah.
Dvitiya Nasti. Dvitiya means second. Nasti means none.
There's only Brahman without a second. Yeah. And our Swami Kedarnath, who studied Ma's teachings, said Ma had 5 Mahavakyas that she frequently said. And that was one of them. The other one was Sab Bhagavan Hai. I have to remember, Rainer and I studied them together. They're all mean the same thing, that basically it's just God alone exists, who's coming through in every experience, in every form, in every sound. It's nothing but the divine. We have to just tune our ears to be able to hear it as divine.
Yes. If you hear her, like in the recordings, she usually uses her, this slips into her Bengali accent when she usually says this and say, Ek Brahmo Ditya Nasti Ache na. Ek Brahmo Ditya Nasti.
Puts a few O's in there. Yeah.
Do you think you can write, somebody could write that in the chat or something?
Yeah, I could do that.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Good.
Thank you.
Like in Master and Kirtan, she would frequently come in Krishna, 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 very Bengali. Ma was a Bengali through and through.
Yeah, she could go back and forth very easily. And then she spoke in the dialect of East Bengal, actually, of the people of Bangladesh, not so much from the people of West Bengal.
Oh,
so another nice flavor to it.
Where is your family from in India? What part of India?
Calcutta.
Okay, so you're Bengali, so you can understand right in her own language. Beautiful. You're lucky.
So I'm just like several generations from Calcutta, but Ma used to speak with basically the Dhaka accent, because Kagara is more or less close to Shahbag was in Dhaka itself. So
yeah. Did you have Ma's Darshan?
Yes, many times.
Wonderful.
Several times when I had several one-on-ones with. I was very blessed to have that at a young age.
Wonderful, wonderful. Yes, I had many privates of Ma also. Can you share some of your, just a memory of Ma that you find very dear to you?
Yeah, I can say something that is less personal, but it's also has a lot of import to it. So when I was about 4, because my parents used to go to Ma before I was born, and in fact, I think they made some sort of a puja or some sort of a manat to Lord Shiva in what is called Varanasi, and actually Swami Narayananda Tirtha or Narayan Swami did the puja for that. So when I was about 4 or 5 years old, I was taken to Varanasi for that puja. And I don't think Ma was there that time, but when Ma came to Calcutta, this is my first memory of Ma, although I've seen her. I mean, my parents took me to her for, I'm sure, long before that. But my first ever memory was that when the Agarpura ashram, there was a new the mandir was built, where you'll find the murti of Baba Bhonaji as well as adjacent to it, Didi Ma's mandir. So that when it was first inaugurated, I think it was about 1961, and I must have been about 5 years old that time. So I went there, and Ma was seated in one of those cots, wooden cots, and over a completely spotlessly white bed cover or bed sheet, and the whole the hall was complete. The hall was actually open on 3 sides. It was completely filled with people. So we were just going, lining up and going to just offer her flowers or garlands. So when I first saw her there, and she was lying down on one side in spotless white attire, as she always there, and then she was lying with her hand on her on the side and the hand on holding up her head, just like Padmanabhji, exactly in that same pose.
Mm-hmm.
And her tresses, jet black tresses, they're lying around it like the snakes, And I still remember that today. I can visualize it. Her there, exactly like Narayana, lying on the milk, the milk ocean of milk, say Dudh Sagar. So Narayana is Padmanabhji is lying there, and Anantnag is holding the snake is holding its the hoods over his. That is one of the things that has stuck to my head, and I was only 5 years old. So this was completely something I absorbed. It was not thought about.
That's a beautiful childhood memory. Wow. Anything else from your interaction? Any times you and Ma interacted with you if you don't mind sharing something personal, we'd love.
I mean, right now, I don't think, I don't know which one to select, but I might just keep on sharing in future what is called. There's one thing I will say, one thing. Ma has always, and this I've heard everywhere, read, and this personally happened to me, that if I had a question and maybe I was outside I couldn't get into the room where she was in, and I'm looking at her from outside the window in Concord. The hut that was in the back of the where the mandir is right now. So
Yes,
she used
yes.
that was one where she used to usually stay there, and I was standing outside the hut, and it was just on the day after my diksha, and someone had presented her one silver, what do you call the mala? The jap mala.
Oh.
It's not like it's where you count the rosary. And I thought maybe it would be nice to have a rosary. And she just looked up straight, and there were about maybe 100 people in the room, and she said, "Just come in, come here." And I said, I thought, whom is she talking? I didn't know. Maybe someone inside the room. I was outside looking through the window. And then someone came and said, "Ma's calling you." So I went in there. She said, "Here it is, but you can't do japa on this rosary. So for doing the japa, you need the tulsi mantra." And so she gave me the tulsi rosary as well. Now, several times I've had this kind of a thing, but this was the first time it happened. And this is some sort of, immediate telepathy.
Yeah. Ma always read people's hearts. It was beautiful. I remember one time, a very mundane example. We were sitting, I think probably in Vrindavan ashram. Ma was on the stage here, and there was like something going on or something. And my friend next to me, he thought to himself, "I have to go to the bathroom. I have to go to the bathroom. I don't want to leave Ma. Don't want to leave Ma." So he looked at Ma, and in his mind, he said, "Ma, I don't want to leave you, but I really have to go to the bathroom." And Ma looked at me and went, I mean, so many times she read everything. She read people's hearts time and time again. Well, how beautiful. Please always come to Vaishnavi and always share with us more. Think of more stories to share. This is priceless treasure.
Thank you. Jai Ma.
Jai Ma, Jai Ma. Beautiful. What wonderful sharings we're getting today. This is great. This is a great day.
Yatesh had his hand up earlier. I don't know if he took it down, so
yes,
not sure if he still had something to say.
I want to talk about something about the human creation. What I have read in from my readings of I follow SRF from Yogananda Paramahansa, and he said that there was this causal body, which is like an idea form, and there was this astral body which was created, which is like more light and energy. And there is this physical body which we see, and the Divine Mother in its form of Kundalini Shakti, she descended from Modula Oblongata down the spinal cord, and she rests in a coiled form as unawakened as Kundalini Shakti. So my question was, did Ma ever talk about Kundalini Shakti or any teachings of how to awaken it?
She has spoken about it. What comes to mind immediately is one time Bhayaji, was one of the early disciples, Jyotish Chandra Roy, came, and Ma had just drawn with a stick on the ground a diagram of all the chakras and the Kundalini and all, from the Muladhara to the crown chakra. And she said, "I want to show you this." She pointed out totally esoterically, just like in Tantric Shastra. And she said, "This is not from a book. I've seen this morning. I was seeing this inwardly, And she did talk about that. She talked more about Kundalini is divine mother consciousness, in the Muladhara chakra. And our efforts cannot house it. In one sense, you can't say rouse mother, but Ma did say, she would say that when that moment comes, when through the purity of our thought, when we purified ourselves through our practice, through our physically, through our vegetarian diet, through our pranayama, all these things, mentally through the japa, through these practices, then the minute we have that vibration of purity, she'll rise on her own because she's waiting to rise. And that's when the real practice comes. Well, you must do this Kriya Yoga from Babaji. This, is a preparation too. The more you're clearing that channel, the more you're creating that evolutionary process of the movement of currents of prana. That's also, preparing for that. So we can prepare the way for her. But I know I've read about some yogis who had very gross ideas of Kundalini, and they would eat a lot of garlic and bounce on their spinal column, bounce like this to awaken the Kundalini. That's just going to harm you. But by purification and by doing the practice our Guru has showed us, like for instance, what Paramahansa Yoganandaji has instructed you in, this will invoke the rise of Kundalini in the correct time. When people say, oh, the Kundalini rose and this happened, that happened, most often when people are talking about Kundalini experiences, they're talking about just movements of prana, because there can be some through meditation, there can be some very graphic movements of prana up and down the spine, the Sushumna. Just it's a preparation, but it's not Kundalini. When Kundalini rises, that much, you go into samadhi. So Kundalini is not something you toy with. It's something that happens in its own time. And it's literally divine. It's literally God herself in that form. So if we do the practice we've been taught by our Guru, that will produce at the right time, in the right way, the movement of Kundalini.
Yeah, because also my parents, they belong to this Mahasiddhi Yoga tradition in India. And in their tradition, the Guru can help rise the Kundalini through a touch or by providing a mantra. I think it's called Shaktipat tradition, if you know about that. Verma didn't talk anything, I think, in that sense. Hello. Hello.
We heard you, but I'm not sure. Maybe Mangalinanda.
My modem here
frozen again.
Renu, I don't know if Mangalananda is frozen, but I just wanted to say that, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
In these satsangs that I've just been editing, she speaks quite a lot about Shaktipat, the descent of Shakti, which awakens the Kundalini. And she says it must happen through a realized master. Yeah. So in fact, I was very surprised. She does talk about Shaktipat, the descent of the Shakti. Yeah, and she says you have to have a realized master, and that can happen. And of course, people who are with her are thinking, you are that master, Ma, you can do it. But she never, she never owned to that really, but she did speak of it. I just wanted you to know that, Yitesh.
Thank you. Yeah. Because my parents' tradition, like it's like from Kashmir Shaivism, and like
yes,
they also like there was a very old saint. She was in like 14th century. Her name is Yogeshwari Lal. And she was she's a very early guru of the tradition, and I think that it has to be like a realized master, like not everyone can do. But if you see like online, you see there is like so many, like we will do Shaktipat initiation, give me $500. Like there is so many like people who are doing these things. Like
right. I mean, I think if you look at Ma's teachings, in their entirety, you'll see that she mentions all of these paths, and she just talks about the mountain that we, all these different paths up to the top of the mountain. So I was interested and surprised to find her speaking about that. I'm noticing it's 6 o'clock. Renu,
I think
what do we know about Mangalananda? Oh, there he is.
I'm back. My internet's freaking out, so just knocked me off. Okay. We should go now, but thank you everyone for coming and for this really wonderful the heart to people and everyone really tuning in. It's beautiful. Let's do in India. We always end with the Shaktipat, from the Vedas, wishing peace for the whole world. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramaya Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschid Dukha Bhag Bhave. May all beings be happy. May all beings be free from suffering. May all look to the good of others. May all experience the unity of life. Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityurma Amritam Gamaya Aviravirmedhi. Lead us from the unreal to the real. Lead us from darkness to light. Lead us from death to immortality. Om Purnamada Purnamida Purna Purnachate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. This is fullness which comes from that fullness. When fullness comes from fullness, yet only fullness remains. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Shri Shri Anandamayi Mata ki jai. Apne apne Satgurudev Bhagavan ki jai. Om Namaha Parvati Pate. Hara Hara Mahadev. So thank you all for coming. We'll see you next month. Everyone's always welcome. And thank you for all your sharings and beautiful stories. It's time. So if you want to just unmute and say bye, we're all here. Thank you, Pragya, and thank you, Renu.
Hi, Ma. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Jai Ma, thank you.
Jai
Ma, thank you.
Okay,
Thank
Ma.
you.
Jai Ma.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
This is
so
our one.
much.
It's so good. It's beautiful.
I didn't even shut it off.
Jai Ma, thank you.
Hey, Ma. Thank you for staying there so late at night.
Okay.
From France, even. Jai Ma. There's Anu. We didn't see
France. My God.
Jai Ma, everyone.
Jayma, no one wants to leave. The love is so beautiful. The energy is so lovely. Thank you, Renu and
It's a
Mangalananda. Thank you so much.
Jai Ma.
Jai Ma.
Hey, Ma, thank you all.
Bye.
I feel refreshed.